Hi and welcome back to my channel. My name is Dawn and I'm the founder and the principal of the International College of Energy Healing. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to use a pendulum and what you can use it for. So a pendulum is one of the basic tools that we use in crystal therapy and other energy healing modalities, but its use really is limitless as it's a powerful tool for accessing intuition. And the reason why I've chosen to do this video today is because it is something that I get asked about a lot, how to use a pendulum. Using a pendulum falls into the terminology of dowsing. Now, there are many definitions of dowsing. According to dowsing author Chris Bird, dowsing is to search for anything. Maria Wheatley, who is a UK second generation master dowser and who taught me professional dowsing, describes it as the skill of detecting invisible targets that's limited only by our imagination. So there is a long history of dowsing. I'm going to look at that in a bit, but let's look at a pendulum first. So a pendulum is one of the tools that a dowser uses. So when you're using a pendulum, you are in fact dowsing. Now, there are other tools used by dowsers as well, like L-rods, and I'm going to cover those in another video. So a pendulum is basically a weight at the end of a line, and they come in various materials like wood, metal, glass, stone, and crystal. And there are many beautiful pendulums that you can purchase, but to be honest, you can just put a nut at the end of a piece of string and voila, you have a pendulum. So it's a very cheap and effective way to do it. Now, I have a couple of pendulums I use. I'm going to talk a little bit later about how to choose a pendulum if you are looking to buy one. So firstly, this pendulum is made from Preseli bluestone, which is the stone that comes from the Preseli Mountains in West Wales. It's one of my favourite stones because it's full of ancient wisdom. And an interesting fact is that the inner stone circle at Stonehenge is made from Preseli bluestone. So the henge builders went a long way to get this magical stone. So I use this pendulum for a lot of my dowsing. So whether it's during a session with a client or whether it's for personal use. And I love how responsive it is to me. When I'm dowsing outside though, I like to use a metal pendulum, and this is because it's so heavy it won't blow in the wind and interfere with my dowsing itself, and it won't break if I drop it. And sometimes dowsing outside means that I'm juggling a map, a pendulum, maybe some rods in inclement weather conditions. So it's really easy to get butterfingers and to drop something. So my metal pendulum won't get damaged if I do. Those are the two main pendulums I use, but I also do have some lovely amethyst pendulums that I use as well. There we go. And then there's this pendulum. This was gifted to me by Maria Wheatley, and it's a very special pendulum indeed. It comes from the best glass blowers in Italy, so Murano glass, and it represents all of the elements. So fire through the process of heating up the glass, to blow it, air because these are blown by somebody filling their lungs with air and blowing into the glass to shape it. And inside there's water, and there's also tourmaline to represent the earth. And of course spirit, well, that's the person who is using the pendulum. It really is a beautiful piece of art, and I only use it on special occasions because it is very, very special to me. So they're my pendulums, but as I said before, you can make your own really cheaply and it will be accurate for you. Now let's look at the history of dowsing. So dowsing dates back thousands and thousands of years, and it's been practiced by many different cultures across the world. According to Lloyd Youngblood from the American Dowsing Association, there's evidence of dowsing in the Atlas Mountains of North Africa on cave paintings in a system of caverns known as the Tassili Caves. These prehistoric paintings include one of a person holding a forked branch in his hand, seemingly searching for water. Now, the murals have been carbon dated, and they were found to be at least 8,000 years old. Other evidence includes etchings on 4,000-year-old temple walls in Egypt of pharaohs holding what looks like dowsing tools. The Cairo Museum has ceramic pendulums which were taken from tombs thousands of years old. And there are pictures of the Chinese emperor called Yu, dating back 2,500 years, and in his hands he was holding something that looks very much like a dowsing rod. There are even passages in the Bible that talk about using the rod to locate and bring forth water. So you are entering into the realms of a very ancient practice indeed, and one that is very much still practiced today and relevant. So how does dowsing work? Well, there are many theories as to how it works. There are schools of thought that suggest that dowsing allows us to access our sixth sense, and others that believe it is simply our mind controlling our body through minute muscle movements. UK master dowser Guy Underwood, he believed that dowsing is a latent ability inherited from our Stone Age ancestors. And for others, dowsing is an external force like a spirit moving the pendulum. What I believe dowsing to be is a process that allows us to tap into our intuitive sixth sense information. So this information we already have access to when we live intuitively, but we forget to pay attention to it. So dowsing acts like a bridge to that information. And it's the same as kind of oracle cards and tarot cards. It's a bridge that allows us to access intuitive information. Now, dowsing does produce involuntary muscle movements that allows us to bypass our conscious mind and go directly to the unconscious or higher self. And it's the source of boundless knowledge. And it's super cool. So now let's look at how to get started with our pendulums. So if you have a pendulum, you can follow along and go and get it and pause the video and off we go. So the first thing that I want to look at is the length of the chain for your pendulum. They come in various lengths, and I find it easier to work with a pendulum if it's a shorter length of chain. So I invite you to pinch it off at about a third of the way down. For me, the pendulum becomes more responsive on a shorter length of chain or cord. So hold the pendulum in whichever hand that you're comfortable with. I'm right-handed, so it's in my right hand. And let the pendulum bead, so the business end, this end, dangle down straight. I like to tuck my arm close to my body to give myself some stability. Or you can rest your elbow on a hard surface. Now, you don't have to do that every time, but you might find it particularly useful when you're just starting out. So the first thing that you'll probably notice is that it's very difficult to hold a pendulum completely still. So the pendulum will seem to want to move on its own accord, swinging in circles and lines, and it might seem kind of spooky at first. But it's only the pendulum's response to the tiny involuntary muscle movements in your hands and your arm. So the key to using a pendulum for divination is to learn what these movements mean for you. So you'll need to program your pendulum to get accurate answers to your questions. And what I mean by program is to find out what a yes or a no answer is. So let's do that now. So ask your pendulum, either in your mind or out loud, to show you a yes. And so watch how the pendulum moves. So for me, it usually moves in a clockwise fashion. Now, it might take some time for this to happen. Don't worry if it does. If it isn't moving, take a deep breath and let go. Let your shoulders and body relax. Sometimes if we tense up, it limits the pendulum's ability to move. Now, sometimes the movements are really, really small. Again, don't worry about that, as long as you can tell the movement, what the movement is for a yes and a no. So when you've established your yes, repeat the same process by asking for a no. So show me a no. So I usually get a back and forth swing. As you can see, it's doing that again. Now, many people also ask a pendulum to show me a don't know, can't answer, or shouldn't be asking swing. And you can, of course, go ahead and do that. However, I will be sharing a process of questions that you should ask at the start of a dowsing session that will mean you don't have to worry about that at all. So, did you get your yes and your no swing? If not, don't worry, because sometimes it takes a few goes to build the energetic connection up. So keep trying. So what you can use dowsing for? Well, just about anything that you need an answer to. Remember that dowsing is the art of finding hidden information, which is only limited by our imagination. So I use dowsing in my healing sessions to find out what might be going on for a client. I use it to check in with myself when I'm making big decisions. And I use it to find lost items, talk to spirit, and more. The list really is endless. So now let's look at my top tips when you're having a dowsing session. Before you begin a dowsing session, you need to be grounded and centered. Scattered energies can greatly affect the accuracy of your dowsing session. So take a few moments to breathe deeply and come to your center before you start. Relax your shoulders, arms, elbows, and wrists. Your mindset is also really important in dowsing. So you want to visualize what you're trying to find, but not fixate on it. Be confident, but not overly confident. And clear your mind as much as you can of any preconceived thoughts or biases. Don't try to predict how the session will go. I really like to think of myself as being a clear and open channel as much as I can be. Other things to consider before you embark upon a dowsing session. Well, are you hydrated? Because dehydration will affect a session. So make sure that you drink some water beforehand. Do you feel tired or unwell? So dowsing isn't recommended if you're feeling ill or depleted energetically, as this will affect the session, but also you. And if you wear a smartwatch, remove it, as the electromagnetic frequency of smartwatches affect the dowsing session itself. Don't douse for long periods of time. Have some rest periods in between, because it can be really fatiguing. So best to do it in short bursts. Spend a little time before you start dowsing to tune into the energy of the thing or the place that you're dowsing. I find that this is a really useful step as it creates a resonance between you and what you're dowsing for. And finally, enjoy it. Dowsing's fun. Now remember when I said that you didn't need to establish a don't know, maybe, or don't ask swing? Well, this is the reason why. Dowsing ethics. Sig Longren, a UK master dowser, wrote a wonderful book called Spiritual Dowsing. In it, he says that we must let go of ego and respect whatever power we are tapping into. He advocated that before dowsing, we should ask 3 simple questions. And if we don't get a yes for each, we should not proceed. Maria Wheatley shared this with me while I was learning to become a professional dowser, and it is a practice that I still use today. So the 3 questions are these. Can I? This means, am I grounded, centered, physically able, energetically able to proceed? Should I? This question is about whether or not what I'm dowsing for I should be dowsing for. Should I be finding out about this? And may I? Do I have permission? If you get a no to the can I would suggest drinking some water and checking again, because I tend to get a no for this question if I'm dehydrated. When I check again, it says yes. And as long as I have a yes for all the other questions, I proceed. Now, you might also be tempted to douse for the winning lottery numbers or for some sort of betting. Now, most dowsers believe that personal gain is not ethical, And you know, I've tried dowsing for the lottery numbers and I didn't get one. So it's not something I personally use dowsing for either. The other thing that I want to talk about in ethics is snooping on somebody's life. So we do have an ability through dowsing to find out what's going on for somebody else. And I do think that there is some ethical considerations to consider. So if we use our 3 spiritual dowsing questions, that will tell us whether or not we should be asking particular questions about another person, about their life, about their relationship with us, whatever. So, you know, do bear that in mind. I think it's a big part of ethical practice. Now, I do want to share with you some tips for buying a pendulum. Now, if you do go into a metaphysical store to find your pendulum, there probably will be several types, several different ones to choose from. And how do you choose, right? They all look gorgeous. With most things, we're drawn to something first visually. It's kind of, you know, what catches our eye. So we might hone into one particular pendulum. So pick it up, try it out, see how responsive it is. And if it doesn't move much, try a different one. And don't forget, you can always ask the pendulum if this is the right one for you. If you can establish a yes or a no swing with the pendulum, you can ask. Now, I kid you not, some pendulums will start moving before you even touch it. I've seen that so many times in my shop, Hidden Gem. The energetic connection is instant and the pendulum is literally dancing before the person even goes near it. It's so neat to see. Now, when I get a new pendulum, I cleanse it. And check out my video on methods for cleansing crystals to find out the best way that you can do this for yourself. And I'll link it in the description below. Once it's cleansed, I like to dedicate it. I hold it to my heart and I ask for it to speak the truth and work for the highest good. I then carry it with me. I sleep with it under my pillow, as this helps to solidify our partnership and really get that energetic connection going. So now that you have your yes and your no answers to your pendulum, you can have some fun to really kind of lean into and practice the technique. So what I like to do is to grab somebody and get them to ask some questions that perhaps I don't know the answer to, and then I can check those out with the pendulum. So it's a really fun activity to do. So you could say, you know, if you're working with a partner, if their middle name is Anne, and it will tell you a yes or a no. So, oh, my pendulum's saying no to that. So I don't know who this partner is, but their middle name is not Anne. So that's just a really great way of practicing, you know, getting to know the swings and the moves. So there are lots more that you can do with the pendulum beyond answering yes or no questions, and that might be a video for the future. But really, pendulum use is only limited by our imagination. I absolutely believe that is the truth, and it's just a very simple, effective way that we can tap into our intuition. Nothing scary, nothing heinous, nothing, you know, we're not tapping into, you know, anything dark or negative. We're just, you know, allowing the pendulum to help us to bridge into our superconscious. Now, the final thing I want to share is that pendulums don't get jealous. You can have more than one. And I learned this very early on. As I was training to be a crystal therapist, I had an amethyst pendulum that I loved, but I was coveting a rose quartz one that I had bought to sell on. Despite really liking the look of the rose quartz pendulum, I felt it would be cheating if I kept it. One day I was getting ready for class and I checked my healing kit just to make sure that everything was there. But there was no pendulum. My amethyst pendulum was gone and I didn't have a clue where it was. It should have been there. So I grabbed the rose quartz one and I went to class, and she performed beautifully. The next day I needed to find my amethyst pendulum, so I looked everywhere, searched high and low. In desperation, I checked my healing kit and there it was. I kid you not, it was there. It wasn't there the evening before and it was there then. I truly believe it disappeared to prove to me that it was okay to have more than one. So that's how I am today. I can have several and they work in partnership with me together. It's like a big happy family. So now you have a way to tap into your intuition, and I hope that you enjoy the process of dowsing using a pendulum. And if you enjoyed this video and want to see more content like this, consider subscribing to my channel and hit the bell to be notified when I upload a new video. My desire is to share information, skills and knowledge to help everyone to live a more intuitive life. So thank you for watching and allowing me to do this work. Ta-ta for now.